Hello. Hello. Good evening. My name is John Keating. I'm Treasurer and one of the Vice Presidents here at the Royal Society, and it's my great pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to this really remarkable and important event, which marks the 90th anniversary of the Council for At-Risk Academics, Cara. I'm very pleased to welcome this wonderful lineup of speakers for this very special occasion. Stephen Wordsworth, who's the Executive Director of Cara, Professor Robin Perutz, who is a Fellow here at the Royal Society and who has represented the Society on the International Human Rights Network of Academies and Scholarly Societies for many years. We also have a cohort of Cara-supported scholars. Ms. Shahira Shahir from Afghanistan, now at Cardiff Metropolitan University. Ms. Kinthet San from Myanmar, now at Goldsmiths University. Dr. Irina Starovoit from Ukraine, a researcher at Risk Fellow. Professor Mirsad Al-Hassan, rector of Sham University at Shamarin in the non-regime northwest of Syria. He actually isn't with us physically tonight for reasons that will be explained and that make this evening's proceedings all the more important. He is a Cara Syria programme participant. And finally, Professor Alan McCarthy, who is the chair of Cara. The Royal Society is delighted to partner with Cara on this event and on a very wide range of other activities. Cara do vital work in ensuring at-risk academics can seek refuge from violence, conflict, and persecution, and reach a place where they can continue their work in safety and at peace. I'm pleased to welcome our friends and colleagues from Cara back to the Society. Cara and the Royal Society have a unique shared history. The founding statement of the Academic Assistance Council, as Cara was originally known, was issued from the rooms of the Royal Society at Burlington House on the 22nd of May, 1933. Cara's first president, Lord Rutherford, was a Fellow of the Royal Society and indeed a past president. 5 of the Society's past presidents were signatories of Cara's founding statement. Now, before I hand over to Stephen, who will give a little more background to why we're here today, I'll very briefly outline the order of tonight's event. We'll have the opportunity to hear a number of brief presentations on Cara's past, present, and on its plans for the future. We'll be hearing how it's transformed lives over 9 decades and done very important and vital work in that process. Following the presentations, there'll be a drinks reception in the next room, the room immediately next to this room. And all of you are welcome to attend and to continue discussions there. I encourage you, while you do that, to take the opportunity to look at the display cabinet next to the reception desk. Some of you may have seen that already. This contains letters and other materials that we've found in the Society's archives relating to the Society's support for refugee scientists, as well as the establishment of Cara. So, without further ado, I'm pleased to hand over to Stephen Wordsworth. Thank you.
John, thank you very much, and we're very glad to be here for our 90th anniversary. Cara, what was then called the Academic Assistance Council, later the Society for the Protection of Science and Learning, has had a very close relationship with both the Royal Society and the British Academy, but our founding statement was actually launched from the rooms of the Royal Society in May 1933, which wasn't then this building, it was over in Burlington House. And I gather the rooms we had were up in the attic somewhere and quite small. But nonetheless, it was a starting point. And we have kept that connection since then, over the many years. The original mission of the founders in the founding statement was defined as the relief of suffering and the defence of learning and science. And that is still very much what we see ourselves doing today. There's still 2 parallel missions, which is about helping individuals, but also preserving the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience they have in their heads, so that can be used for the benefit of all and not lost. The circumstances in which people find themselves these days who need our help vary enormously, from open conflict So we have people here from Ukraine, for example, both through our own programme and with Irina Starovoytia under the Researchers at Risk scheme, which the British Academy have been leading on. It can be something they've written or said which has upset somebody, which might be a government or might be an extremist group. It can be something about them as people. In Afghanistan now, for example, women can't work at universities at all, full stop. But equally, there are other societies where sexual orientation, gender identity, and so on are issues which can get people into very serious trouble, or even threatened with death. So it can be anything from very personal to very widespread, very broad. But we are there to help them. In our early years in the 1930s, we reckon that between the foundation in 33 and the opening of the Second World War in 39, about 1,500 people were helped. After the war, of course, it went down a bit, then up a bit, and different things happened. But currently, it's fair to say we are now busier than at any time since those early years, sadly. It's not something we take pleasure in, but we do take pleasure in the fact we can actually do something about it. And we do that with the support of societies like the Royal Society, but also with our University and Research Group network, and now 135 UK universities and research institutes who provide places, provide funding, and make it all possible. So many of them are here also tonight, represented here, and we are very grateful for that support, and without that we could do nothing at all. So that's the background. We'll now move on to the individual speakers who will tell you a bit about their particular part in all this. So again, moving on, Robin, if I could ask you to come and talk about Cara Past.
Thank you, Stephen. Can you hear me? Is the mic on? Yes? Good. Right, let's get going. So I'm going to start before the Cara era, BCE. Good, I'm glad you got that. A bandmaster in the Prussian army flees at the outset of the Franco-Prussian War in 1757, becomes a refugee in London, moves to Richmond in North Yorkshire, not Richmond, London, and then Bath. In 1772, his barely educated sister joins him. Do you know who that was? William and Caroline Herschel, two of the most famous astronomers of all time. William became a Fellow of the Royal Society, first President of the Royal Astronomical Society, court astronomer to George III. Caroline, remember she was barely educated when she arrived, was the first woman to hold a salaried position as a scientist, the first to publish in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society, and the first and the only one for about 100 years to win the gold medal of the Royal Astronomical Society. So the refugee problem has been with us for all time. It's not just individuals, but it's their families as well. And Britain has welcomed and rewarded refugees, and long may it continue to do so. When you get invited to do something these days, you're asked to declare your conflicts of interest. So here are mine. My dad arrived in Cambridge as a research student in 1936. He came from Vienna. He was interned as an enemy alien in 1940. And my mother came a bit earlier, a bit later than Max, a bit earlier than the war in 1938. And she became an assistant to Tess Simpson in the SPSL, Cara's predecessor. And one of the important roles of the SPSL was to campaign for the release of internees, including Max. Max sought some money from the SPSL to support him, but in the end he got support from the Rockefeller Foundation. But the important conflict of interest is that my parents met in the offices of the SPSL in 1942, so without SPSL there would be no me. So let's just go back. We've heard a little bit about this already to the beginning, the Academic Assistance Council in 1933. On the 30th of January 1933, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. In March, he got powers to rule by decree, and in April, the law for the restoration of the professional civil service forbidding Jews, non-Aryans and political opponents from holding positions as teachers and professors was declared. And that was the moment, particularly when people were dismissed. Now, Lord Beveridge, only he wasn't a lord then, he was principal of LSE, and Robbins, later of the Robbins report, are said to have been having tea in a nice cafe in Vienna in March, and learnt of the dismissal of Jewish professors. The tea may have been with Leo Szilard. If you watched the Oppenheimer film, you will have seen something about him. And in May, we've heard the AAC, the Academic Assistance Council, was launched. These guys did not waste time. They certainly got on with it. So that the founders were Beveridge, Rutherford, you've heard about, A.V. Hill, the physiologist, Gowland Hopkins, person who discovered the first vitamins, all Nobel laureates. They, together with 37 of the great and the good from economics, science, humanities, and so on, declared the launch of the Academic Assistance Council. And there's the quotation of the 11th of May. The Royal Society Council today agreed the Society should do all that you wish in connection with the appeal. Signed, Rutherford. You can go and find his portrait somewhere in the Royal Society. The story goes that a man called Walter Adams from University College London got going on the nuts and bolts, and he wanted to enlist Einstein, and he chased Einstein down to the Norfolk coast where he was hiding away for some reason and said, would you do the launch? And the answer was yes. Adams is said to have rushed to book the Albert Hall, and Einstein did the launch in October 33. And Einstein laid it on thick. If you look at his speech, without such freedom, there would have been no Shakespeare, no Goethe, no Newton, no Faraday, no Pasteur, and no Lister. And so it went on. Yes, he really laid it on thick. Right. So a crucial appointment came. The people who founded it needed somebody to do the hard work. There's plenty of room up the front, by the way. Please feel free to come to the front. And they found this woman called Tess Simpson and asked her to be the assistant secretary, in other words, to do the hard work. And she continued doing so until 1978, a remarkably long time. And there are lots and lots of stories about her empathy, the way she responded to people, the commitment to the individuals and their families, and clearly tireless work, but also flexibility in dealing with the complications that different people present. So that was critical. I put this up in case you get really confused. We've already had a bit of clarification of this problem. Starting at the start, it was called the Academic Assistance Council. In 1936, it changed to the Society for the Protection of Science and Learning, SPSL. In 1999, to the Council for Assisting Refugee Academics. Unfortunately, in 2014, the acronym remained CARA, Council for At-Risk Academics. So that's just in case you're getting confused. Well, early achievements, we've heard a little bit about the numbers. Already by 1938, 550 refugee scholars had been permanently placed in 38 different countries. It wasn't just a UK organisations, and 330 more temporarily placed in 25 countries. And the scholars came from Germany, Austria, Italy, Spain. So those numbers underneath are those who were registered. Now, clearly they had to do pretty stringent selection because there were far more people who needed help than could be accommodated. And then in 1940, during the war, with the internment issue, it became their task to try and get these people out of internment, these people who detested Hitler's regime but were interned, and 550 applications with individual details were prepared for their release. The poster, by the way, comes from an artist, Hugo Dachinger, and he was interned in the Isle of Man, and the exhibition was of his artwork from internment. So, impact. Impact is what everybody wants to know about these days. Here's impact. Nicholas Pevsner, The Buildings of England. There was no compendium of all the wonderful buildings in this country until Nicholas Pevsner, who was supported by Cara, produced all these volumes that many of you may be familiar with, county by county, for the buildings of England. Stoke Mandeville is famous for its rehabilitation work. The person who started that was Ludwig Gutmann, and he is also credited with starting what was first called the Stoke Mandeville Games, but then moved to become the Paralympics. So his nickname is the Angel of the Paralympics. Now, it's true that the vast majority of these people were male, but not all. Edith Budbring was a physiologist working in Oxford, and she became very well known in her own right. Two more. Penicillin. Penicillin, the standard name is Fleming. Fleming discovered a mold. It was dirty, mucky stuff, and with a purity of, I can't remember what, 0.001% or worse. The people who turned it into something that we can use were Florey and Ernst Chain. There's the blue plaque from Oxford. The Story of Art, the book that presented art for everybody in a really comprehensive way, that's the work of Ernst Gombrich. So Max, my father, summarized this as Hitler's gift to Britain was talent, more valuable than gold. And of course, Cara's predecessors enabled the country to benefit from that talent. The list of Nobel laureates, including Max, and Fellows of the Royal Society and the Fellows of the British Academy goes on and on. It's remarkable how many of these came as displaced people, how many of them were supported by Cara. So Max said a little bit more, and I think it's worth going over that. Had I stayed in my native Austria, even if there had been no Hitler, I could never have solved the problem of protein structure or founded the Laboratory of Molecular Biology. I would not have had the outstanding teachers and colleagues or learnt scientific rigor. I would have lacked the stimulus, the role models. We all owe a tremendous debt to Britain. So that's the foreword from a book called Hitler's Gift. So it may be stretching a point, but would the laboratory of molecular biology ever had have existed without the original support of Cara for Max, and without Max having met my mother, Gisela. I doubt it. And the Laboratory of Molecular Biology is the nickname, other name, is the Nobel Prize Factory. So moving on, post-war, the geography of the problems shifted, and shifted principally to South America and Africa. There are plenty of seats up the front. In South America, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, in Africa, a whole range of different countries. I'll just pick out one person, Jack Mpanji, a Malawian poet, and he wrote, "Like many other refugees and exiles, we did not feel alone and dejected in a foreign land. We felt that we belonged to a world that cared for our lives and the lives of our families." So Jack Mpanji was actually a Cara Fellow in the University of York in the 1980s, supported by the Centre for Southern African Studies by Landig White. So I come from the University of York, by the way. So, does it matter? Can we make a difference? Well, is it just a drop in the ocean, or are we doing something? According to UNHCR, there are currently 35 million refugees displaced to foreign countries. Total number of displaced people is 3 times that. How many of those might qualify for Cara's help? We don't know the answer to that number. Nobody has found an answer. So, does it really make a difference? By the way, this is another picture from a refugee. My view is perfectly clear. Most of us can only help individuals. But helping those individuals makes a massive difference, not just to them, it makes a difference to us, the people who do the helping. We benefit it. So I've just mentioned Landig White, who helped in the University of York, who helped Jack Mpanji. I haven't managed to identify anybody else until I hosted myself in 2014 and to 2016, and the person I hosted, Husni Nakashbandi, is here together in the picture. He isn't actually in the room, unfortunately. He couldn't get off work. He's here with his wife and 2 children. The 2 children by now are bigger, and particularly one of them, and they are both at university. A great success story. 2 more Cara Fellows from Syria and 1 from supported by the Scholars at Risk have worked in my department, including Saeed, who may be here. I don't know whether Saeed's actually here. And now the university hosts 4 Ukrainians supported by Cara. I have no doubt whatsoever, if we can support individuals, that makes a huge difference, and Cara enables us to do that. So, happy 90th, Cara, and I've just to do the acknowledgements, I've found a lot of material in the books I mentioned down there: Jeremy Seabrooks, Chula Marks, Andrew Bound, Jean Medower, and Esther Saraga. Thank you.
Robin, thank you. And I'd now like to invite the first of our Cara present speakers, our fellow Shahira Shahir from Cardiff Metropolitan University from Afghanistan, to come and talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shahira Shahir from Afghanistan and currently Doctor of Management student at Cardiff Metropolitan University and Cara's Fellow. I want to share a short story of my journey to the UK. Before Taliban took over, I was a lecturer at the university, and I had my company, which was marketing service company, that I established with my students, and I was driving car, which was unusual in my city. Unfortunately, when the Taliban came, I lost all of them. And life for me was very difficult on that time. It was like a person who is about to die, and all of my past was in front of my eyes. And I was thinking that I won't have a future, despite I faced some specific risk as well. Then, with the help of my cousin, we found Cara organization and Cardiff Metropolitan University. I sent my document, my educational document, and I was not sure they are going to accept me. I was thinking, they don't know me, and I don't have any link, I don't have any connection with them, how it could be possible? But they accepted me, and I was very, very happy, excited. I received an email that you must be in Kabul. I was living in Herat. I received an email in the evening, and I took a bus with my brother. It was a very, I could say, risky journey. From Herat to Kabul, it took around 14 hours, and the weather was very hot, and I was just covering my face and all, but I had hope in my heart that I would leave this country finally. In the morning when I arrived in Kabul, unfortunately the same day that bomb explosion happened in airport, and I received email that we are not able to help you. I hated that email. It was a very, very difficult situation, but I didn't lose my hope. I stayed in a month in Kabul, but nothing happened. I went back to Herat, and I was for 2 months in Herat. Then I received email that you can apply for UK visa, student visa from Iran. Then I applied first for Iran visa. It was very difficult, lots of pressure. I got visa, and I went with my mom to Iran. I went to Mashhad, and then filled the application, visa application, and then traveling to Tehran. It was 12 hours by train, going to Tehran, submitted my document, and then back to Mashhad and wait. After 21 days, I received email that you can collect your passport, and with no news. I went the same time, when I received the email, I went to Tehran. I didn't wait for they posted for me. And I went over there. It was 12 hours in the morning. I received to Tehran, and I went to the visa center, and I asked, did they give me visa? The woman, she was sitting on the counter. She said, I don't know, just open the pocket. Still, I remember the red plastic bag, which was Royal Mail. I opened it, and I opened my passport, and it was visa. And I just screamed, oh my God, I got the visa. And she said, oh, it's just a temporary visa. Why you are that much excited? I said, no. It is going to change my life. And I came here. I went to Cardiff. The first night, when I went to Cardiff in student accommodation in my room, still I remember, I was feeling that I'm in the corner, in the high corner in some place in the world, which is far from war, from tension, from risk, from all the bad situation which I was facing for that. And now I can feel the freedom. And I was very, very excited. Yes, it has been 1 year and 8 months since I came here. And I started my DMAN, Doctor of Management, studying in here. I attended to different conferences. I presented my paper. I had speech in some events which was from my university. I submitted paper with the help of my mentor, which is introduced by Cara organization. I got fellowship of Campbell Lodge, which is a group of researchers from all around the UK. And we are sharing our experience and also attending to the different events. And I wrote some academic, some pieces to their weblog as well. And yes, and the last but not least, just a few months ago, I received an email from Cara, which it was regarding a survey to Cara. And then one of the questions was that, would you like to support Cara in the future if you have money, or if you're able? On that time, my hand by heart, my eyes was full of tears, and I said, yes, definitely, by all means, I would love to support Cara, yes, because I was the person. I didn't have link, I didn't have connection, I didn't believe that. Right now, I'm here. Despite my future is not clear, if the situation will be the same in my country, I won't be able to go. I don't know after 2 years where I will be, but I would love to continue my academic career. And yes, I would love to support and help Cara. I would like to say thank you to all the people who are working with the Cara, who are supporting the Cara. Every and each small task that you are doing for the Cara, it is going to bring a massive, a huge change to our life, to the life of people like me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Shahira, thank you very much indeed. And Krasna Kintetsan to come and tell us about her experiences from Myanmar. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And firstly, thank you so much to Cara and also to all the guests that I have a chance to come and share with my experience together with Cara as a Cara Fellow. So currently I am studying PhD in Goldsmiths, University of London. So I'm just a first year student and I'm doing research about religious nationalism and the notion of human rights. The case study will be in my own country, Myanmar. So actually, I came to UK to study 1 year master program, and then my plan was to go back after my study. So what happened was after 1 year studied in Colchester, University of Essex. The program is Human Rights and Cultural Diversity. After a year, and I continued my internship with University of York Human Rights Center, and I was almost go home, and but because of the pandemic, it disrupted my plan, and I couldn't go home, and also it delayed other plan as well, because at the time I was already employed to work inside Myanmar, but that plan didn't happen at all. Because in 1st February 2021, the military seized the power and overthrew the Democrat government. And since that time, everything changed, and I couldn't go home at all up to now. So I have been in UK for already 4 years. Since the military coup happened in my country, so this is the time that Cara secured my life in UK and also give the opportunity to study in UK. So firstly, Cara secured a position for the research fellow at SOAS, the Institute of South Asia Studies. So in this position, I work together with Dr. Avinash Paliwal about the regionalism in South and Southeast Asia. So this is the first time that Cara saved me, and also because of that opportunity, I have chances to study and also polish my research skills, and also to network and to network with other scholars and academics. After that, after 1 year and a half, also Cara helped me for the second time to study this PhD program. Without Cara, it's very difficult for me to stand and talk here today. Cara helped and support is not only benefiting not only to me as an individual, but also for my Myanmar fellow and community as well. Because since the military coup happened, and aside from my research and my PhD program, and I'm actively participating in teaching to the young people from my country, because of the current situation and the conflict and civil war. These many young people cannot access to formal education. So I actively participated in teaching and also other research, reporting about youth peace and security, and researching, reporting, and also participating in conference, fundraising, and presentation about my country to promote to get more international attention, and also to get help. So all these things I am receiving, and also together, not only to me, my community. Without Cara support, I can imagine currently where I will be and with which status. Because before I applying to Cara, I'm also trying to get a work in Thailand as well, because of visa status it's difficult. So at that time I was so desperate, like where should I stay? What can I do? What will be the option? So because of Cara, I have chances to use and share knowledge and skills and support what's happening. That's happening in my country. And at the same time, being here, I also can share and also contribute in my university as a research fellow before. So as a conclusion, I would like to thanks to Cara and also all the people who support and work for Cara. Because without this support, like me, other people, other academic, and also Robin also presented, there are a lot of people are getting benefit and also, mutually contributing. So yeah, I can be more thankful than that. I feel so good, and I do appreciate each of you working for Cara and also supporting to Cara. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you for that, and another very personal story. Now, there are many different circumstances that lead to our being involved in trying to help people, and we work often with other organizations. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 led to a massive worldwide response of people trying to think what they could do to help. And here in this country, one of the responses to that was the establishment of the Researchers at Risk scheme led by the British Academy, with initially government funding and also some funding from the Nuffield Trust and Sage Publishing, and then more government funding. So the end of it was, the total budget was about 13.3 million, which that resulted in 180 awards, almost all of them for 2 years, for people getting away from Ukraine, needing somewhere to work and to study until, again, they could go back. We have one of the grantees of that program with us tonight, Dr. Irina Starovoit, who will tell us a bit about her experience coming from Ukraine. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege, it's a great honor to stand here today and to talk a little bit about my own experience within this program and the importance of such a program. I think that it's an example of outstanding university solidarity as well, because the Research at Risk program within Cara auspices infused, or at least enhanced, a lot of small initiatives, a lot of individual willingnesses to help when people just didn't know how. And you have suggested how to do that. Across the borders, across the languages, and across the generations. I think never the world needed more solidarity than now, and we actually have this. And I will tell a story of mine, or at least how I understand this. When I started to look into the history or prehistory of the Blitz, I suddenly came across this very important story about the poster Keep Calm and Carry On. It has been produced a couple of months before the Blitz itself. It was printed, it was designed, approved, and printed in many million copies, but actually never went into the full circulation, because a couple of weeks before the Blitz, there was a feeling in the air, if we go forward with this poster, people would just panic. And when it was into a couple of weeks after the Blitz, it was too late to come up with such a poster. So the whole print was somehow stuck in many places. One of them was one of the London bookseller, which discovered the deposits of this poster at the brink of the millennium. And then the poster got its second life, and it started to be memed many times, and we all know the memes which go around based on this poster. But in my humble opinion, Keep Calm and Carry On could be a second slogan for Cara in many ways. So when everything just started to happen to me and my country on this big scale of catastrophe on February 24, 2022, a friend of mine, an important writer and documentary recorder, Victoria Amelina, was about to travel back with her child from Egypt via Prague to Ukraine. Their flight was scheduled for the night between February 23 and February 24. And when she was staying in Cairo at the airport by the counter, she was told, "Mom, the airlines are not allowed to fly to your country. We even don't know for sure whether your country will still exist at the moment when your plane is scheduled to land in Kiev." And I think everybody would shake on the idea that you have to encounter, you have to hear such a phrase when you are waiting just to come back home after the vacation. So Victoria said to me and then to many other friends, and then she wrote about that experience, and she said that the most important, crucial moment in her life was this couple of minutes, probably quarter of an hour, when she and her child were waiting what will be the decision on behalf of other countries in the world, what will be done to them. And actually, all the countries which had some border with Ukraine, except Belarus and Russia, actually opened their borders and opened their homes and opened their hearts to the refugees from Ukraine. And because of that, I want also to address this important punch about the direct flight. Direct flight could be meant in two possible dimensions. One, it's a flight as a refuge, but another one, it's a flight as an air travel. I come from the city of Lviv, Lvov, Lemberg, which had a very windy history of 20th century and very interrupted history. Some big minds were educated in that city, and as a cultural historian and a historian of an intangible heritage, I was writing and thinking and discovering many stories from 1920s and 1930s in my own city, which were not inherited in a proper way because the social texture of the city was almost entirely destroyed by 1945. And when I looked into the history, I understood there was a very important philosophical and mathematical school, which was later called Lviv or Lvov Warsaw School of Thought, which gathered in a particular cafe, which was called Scottish Cafe by some reason. And they were gathering there and discussing all kinds of problems. And they came up with a range of ideas, which were then transplanted into other capitals of the thought around the world. And they came into prominence. Some of them participated in Manhattan Project later. And when one of a student of microbiology in the city of Lviv in the late 1920s and 1930s was observing that group of people and their discussions and their non-exactly university-placed work of thought, work of mind, he called them to be thought collective. And he insisted in his book, which was printed exactly in 1933, the year when Cara was established and so many nasty things started to happen in Europe. His name was Ludwig Fleck. He, by the way, was one of the co-authors of the typhus vaccine. But before that, he produced a book on the philosophy of scientific fact. The book was entitled The Origin and Verification of the Scientific Fact. And in that particular book, which was read diligently later by Thomas Kuhn and was acknowledged in his introduction to the paradigm shift, Ludwig Fleck said that every big scientific idea actually take off the ground within a thought collective. It's not individual, it's not a tandem, it's always more than that. You need a couple of competing school of thoughts. You have to have a couple of groups of people which actually can discuss and quarrel, and later probably they will come up with something which is really important. And because of that, I would say that other two important people in the domain of the law studies were another thought collective educated in Lviv University in the 1920s. One was Gersh Lauterpacht, refugee to Great Britain during the Second World War. Another one was Raphael Lemkin, refugee to the United States during the Second World War. They both were thinking how to define, how to shift the paradigm within the juridical studies, within the law schools, because of the things which were happening in Europe during 1939-1944. And they came up with two competing ideas. Raphael Lemkin came up with the idea of genocide. Let's call that genocide. What's happening to Jews, what's happening to Roma, what has happened to Armenians 35 years prior, or what has happened to Ukrainians within what we now call Holodomor. Another intellectual, which was Hersch Lauterpacht, here on the British ground, came with the idea of crime against humanity. Both ideas are still vital, and both ideas are useful, and both ideas are applicable to the things which are happening on and on. I think that important notion I got from my grandfather in my city of Lviv was, live long enough, child, and you see it all. I never knew how much I will see up to my almost 50 years, but it's true that Cara lived a decent life of 90 years and saw it all already. And just to finish my small speech, I want to say about the future. For myself, I make a distinction, a difference between global and planetary. I think global is about interconnectedness of human beings, but planetary is what we humans do to the earth. So global crisis in these terms prefigure planetary crisis. The less spoken aspect of the Russian war against my country, against Ukraine, is that it undermines our common capacity to deal with the planetary crisis. The big war threatens that altogether it will be too late. And I think it's important that programs like Cara help to make this very important intellectual and social shift from too late to no, it's not too late. Let's try to do what we still can do, and probably it will be timely. So the answer is a gift economy, the answer is thinking of care, and the answer is solidarity. Keep calm and carry on.
Thank you for that. And so far we've heard from two fellows in our fellowship program and from Irina, which is a different program but similar in many ways, about helping individuals to get away and get to a safe place, very often here in the UK. That is part of what Cara does. The other part of what we do is what we call our regional programs, which we've now had three. The first one was for Iraq from 2006 till 2012. Overlapped the program for Zimbabwe, 2009-2013, and currently our program for Syria, which we launched in 2016, which is still running. This focuses on people who are not coming to Europe or even to let alone to the UK, but rather who are staying either in some cases in their own country but need support there, or have got as far as a neighbouring country where again they need support to be able to carry on, to keep their contacts, to build networks, all based on the idea that one day they will return, as with our fellowship program, and they will take the skills back with them to help rebuild their countries. The program for Syria is operating mainly in Turkey. We have around 200 Syrian academics signed up with the program. There are over 400 individual academic volunteers at universities in the UK who work with them in a whole range of different skills. We had hoped tonight to have Dr. Mirza Al-Hassan with us. He is the rector of Shaman University in Shamarin in what is northern Syria, the non-regime part of northwest Syria. Unfortunately, as he was planning to leave, get a plane last night, for reasons that are still being considered, we're trying to work out what's happening, he was prevented from boarding the plane and has had to return to Gaziantep in southeastern Turkey. But he joins us from there, and we're very grateful to him for doing that. And with the wonders of Zoom, he will deliver his presentation from Gaziantep rather than from this rostrum. So, Mirza, thank you for joining us.
Yes,
please carry on. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about Ashram University and Syrian academics, and apologize that I couldn't present in person because of the problem that Syrians face daily. It seems that stories of Syrian academics are similar to the story of Dr. Shahir and other colleagues. Yesterday, I had a similar experience in one airport. I was fortunate that Kate Robinson was in the same place and presented me unforgettable support, and Stephen did through phone. I want to thank them again and again. Anyway, that is our faith. Could I share my screen, please? I want to tell you about Sham University and its project or collaboration with Cara through the last year. As you know, the Syrian conflict began in 2011, and in 2015, a group of academics who were internally displaced greeted a higher education commission to stop students from leaving for Europe and to meet the labor market's requirements. Sham University received backing from a Turkish NGO, İHA, and was founded in 2015. The initial class started studies in 2016 and graduated in 2019. Since this year, we have partnered with Cara to enhance the caliber of our educational and research program. Actually, our work at Sham University is very important because it's helping to maintain access to higher education for the local community in this still disputed area and the over 2 million IDPs. The lack of engagement and support for higher education from the international humanitarian and development community. The mobility difficulties faced by Al-Sham students due to the lack of accreditation as a result of the realities of Northwest Syria and the absence of one national government. We have many challenges now during our work. Some of them infrastructure damage. I remind you by last earthquake, isolation, loss qualified staff because of migration, asylum, lack of recognition, knowledge gaps amongst students, psychological trauma, commuters, and work obligations. In these areas, we can see the support of Cara very clearly. It's through, of course, the Syria program. This program began in 2016, following consultations with Syrian academics in exile. Consultations informed the design of a three-strand pilot phase: English for academic purposes, research incubation, and academic skills development. The Syria program is underpinned by the principle that agenda setting should be determined by the people concerned. This program follows a participatory action research framework to respond to the participants' needs. Priorities and agendas are formulated through interactive workshops, roundtables, and other extensive group process. Collaborative research and capacity building amongst staff are key priorities. We could, I think, achieve a good thing during last stage. For example, through Strand 4, we could publish very important for our situation research article. For example, exploring the value of a risk management quality assurance model to support the delivery of quality higher education in the conflict-affected northwest of Syria, and enhancing higher education in our region, evaluating the effectiveness of student record systems, knowledge gaps among the students, and factors affecting gender balance in higher education in northwest of Syria. Developing soft assets has support an inclusive whole institution approach. Here I mean collegial culture, conceptual understanding, and working practices. Action research and the Cara collaboration with Al-Sham faculty sustaining higher education in northwest Syria. We are working on the training, educating the educator, and I think it was very successful direction, our collaboration with Cara. We prioritize building a solid reputation for the university, aiming for programmatic accreditation instead of institutional recognition, which is currently politically actually impossible. Co-development Al-Sham leaders and UK team of a roadmap that allows for achieving European accreditation standards. We will rely on ESG 15, which is flexible and context relevant. A significant initial achievement, building a culture of quality education at Asham that is shared by faculty. We implemented democratic process to engage all staff in finding gaps and proposing solutions, leading to building a quality assurance model suitable for fragile context. Here we talk about all northwest of Syria. Leadership practices, including cascading training from UK partners to faculty and bringing in new blood by recruiting young academics to train them as future leaders. The individual UK faculty are already playing a vital role as Syria program mentors and critical friends. So now we hope those connections with UK universities evolve into developmental and research partnerships. We get help building vital connections central to Cara's network of UK universities. Thank you, and sorry for a long time.
Thank you, Biasa. Working obviously in very difficult conditions, many of the Syrian academics working in our Syria program in Turkey do in fact cross the border on a regular basis now to teach at Sham University in, as I say, northwest Syria, but outside the regime-controlled areas. And there are many, many problems and difficulties, but thanks to the support of the army of volunteer academics who support us, they're able to do tremendous work. So we're very grateful for that. We'll now jump back to the fellowship programme. When we came back out of COVID, we looked at our material and realised that what we had before was no longer valid because the world had changed, what we were doing was changing, but also there were new crises. Before COVID, most of our focus was on the Middle East. That was where people were coming to us from, mainly from Syria, from Yemen and other countries. Since then, of course, we've had Afghanistan, we've had Ukraine, other crises to look at. So we thought it was time to do a new video to explain what we do to a wider audience. So we have the launch of that tonight. This is the first time it's been shown in public. It was actually only finished about 2 days ago. So I think it's the person who put it together is actually here in the audience, so if it goes wrong, I'll blame him. So if we can run that, thank you.
Cara rescued me and my family from a very perilous situation, and we are all alive as a result of that support. I was at a very severe risk when the brutal terrorist regime of the Taliban came to power in Afghanistan, in my home country. The risk of being persecuted, tortured, punished, imprisoned, and even barbarically killed. It was all because of my professional knowledge, academic experiences, my skills, expertise, my ethnicity, my thought, as well as my past political engagement as well.
Before the war, I was the Vice Rector on Education at my domestic university and the lecturer in the Faculty of Economic Sciences. According to the experience of Russian invasion in 2014 to Luhansk, Donetsk, we definitely knew that rectors and top management, together with lecturers in Ukrainian history, Ukrainian linguistics, are always on the top list of those to be repressed. My native university was shelled several times, and we have destroyed buildings and heavily damaged roof, hundreds of windows totally crashed. Cara helped my family to move to Durham, and together with specialists in Durham University, we were provided with residence, we were provided with school for my child. I have the possibility to work here in Durham University, and which is very important for me. I could continue with doing projects with my domestic universities, and also to be involved in projects which are held here in Durham.
Our commitments to Cara are part of Durham's humanitarian response, but it goes beyond that. It's really about the people, it's about their families, and it's about the university being able to play a part in changing people's lives, and it really does. Since 2017 or so, we were able to fund a core number of fellows, and that really changed the programme. Having a regular financial commitment enabled us to plan, enabled us to ensure we had adequate support for fellows and families, and we could regularise how we worked across the institution. And I'm really proud to say we now host 6 fellows and their families, and we help them with a range of things to ensure they're settled into not just the university but the local community.
So over the last 10 years, what we've been working to do with Cara at the University of Edinburgh in a partnership is a number of things. One has been to work to increase the number of fellows that we're supporting each year through Cara and their partners and families that we bring here and provide temporary sanctuary. The second thing that we've done is tried to rethink how we do things and how that partnership works with Cara. Can we think outside the box? One of the things that we've done there is to repurpose one of our colleagues within our international division who is Cara's Scotland manager. And we've done that in order to help Cara's small team in London to be able to really increase their reach and profile. Cara's unrivaled in the UK and probably across Western Europe. It's a tried and trusted partner for the university. By doing more together as a sector with Cara and institutionally, this should be a core part of what we do as universities in the UK when we reflect on our mission, our values and our internationalisation. Global universities equal global responsibilities.
When I first joined Cara, my plan is to finish my PhD and go back and help in rebuild my country. Unfortunately, the war lasted more than I expected, and after the 11 years war, followed by 2 years pandemic, and recently an earthquake. So it was very difficult for me to go back. I am a Cara alumna, working now in University College London, UCL. My role is a research networks and partnerships manager. The assistance that Cara provided wasn't only financial or immediate financial support. It was also to empower me to successfully complete my PhD in the University of Portsmouth. A continued support provided me with an opportunity to work after my PhD in Swansea University as a research fellow. They secured that placement and this grant in like a very crucial juncture in my journey.
Shortly after I started at Cara, we marked the 80th anniversary, and now 10 years later, Cara is a very different organization. We are experiencing an extremely busy period, perhaps the busiest since the 1930s and Second World War, following Afghanistan and Ukraine, but also the continuation of other conflicts around the world and the targeted persecution of academics. We have witnessed a significant increase in demand. Before Afghanistan, we had 160 applications. The following year, it increased to 1,200 applications.
Oh, I just think I think everyone should support Cara. I am enormously passionate about what Cara can bring to universities, and not just about what Cara can bring to universities, but what universities can bring to this community of academics who are just like us, but in situations that we just can't understand. And I think it's we do have, as universities, the ability to change people's lives, and I'm really proud that we do here.
It's a tragic for our country at the moment, but I'm hopeful. I believe that this is for a short period of time. Hopefully that in a couple of years I would be able to return back to my home country to do my commitment against my homeland, against my people that they really need me as an academic.
Right, we've done the past, done the present, so that just leaves the future. I'd like to ask the chair of our trustees to come and give his thoughts on that. Professor Alan McCarthy, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Wow, I feel I should start with an apology, actually, because the last hour or so we've covered an enormous amount of ground, and you can't feel, as Robin mentioned, the word impact. And I imagine the impact on you is like the impact on me. It's tremendous. And I'm afraid I'm probably not going to make much of an impact on you after all of that. Thank you to the Royal Society for this wonderful venue and for supporting us yet again. And thank you to our speakers, Robin Shahira, Keen, Irina, Miasar on Zoom, and everyone that's been involved in this evening. It really is so heartening to stand here and look at a packed audience on this warm evening, and thank you all for coming and showing your interest. I want to start this short address with 3 quotes. So I'm supposed to be talking about the future, which is very difficult to predict. It's impossible to predict. But I'm going to do a little bit of past, not back quite as far as Robin. And starting 5 years ago in 2018, an editorial on academic freedom in the journal Nature, which some of you will be familiar with, which began with these words, and I've never actually been able to forget these words. Hidden inside a 1970s office block close to London's Waterloo Station is a tiny organisation that has helped tens of thousands of academics find sanctuary from conflict. And that's what CARA is, a tiny organisation. Actually, as I'll tell you in a minute, it's a little bit bigger than it was 10 years ago. My second quote is from 14 years ago in 2009 from a British politician, in fact a government minister. CARA is a fiercely independent organisation, so I won't be telling you who it is. In conversation with persecuted academics from Iraq, Sudan and Zimbabwe. Wherever there is a dictatorship or totalitarian regime, its first quarrel is with those who oppose it. They are frequently found in universities, places where teaching and research should flourish. All over the world, university lecturers and researchers can face persecution, imprisonment, and torture for challenging those in power. That's the backdrop. And the last thing I want to say, to go right back to 1933, and Stephen said, quoting the Academic Assistance Council statement, our only aims are the relief of suffering and the defence of learning and science. But the preface to that, which I think is worth mentioning, our action implies no unfriendly feelings to the people of any country. It implies no judgment on forms of government or on any political issue between countries. Our only aims are the relief of suffering and the defence of learning and science. And here we are 90 years later, and that, I think, still defines our mission. But looking at recent history, just in the last 10 years, because we celebrated our 80th anniversary, of course, 10 years ago, in 2013. And in the publication at that time, CARA had 4 full-time and 2 part-time staff. Today, we have 20 full-time staff and at least 3 part-time staff. So, still very small, but not really tiny. And in those last 10 years, it's been quite transformational. I'm a scientist, so I won't use the word exponential increase, because of course it isn't an exponential increase, but it's really quite impressive. You caught glimpses of that CARA team in that video. There's 20 full-time people now, And I couldn't stand here and talk to anybody about Cara without paying tribute to the dedication, hard work and commitment of that group of people. It really is enormously impressive. And of course, they're here tonight. They're quite easy to spot because they're younger than most of us. Although having said that, I'm pleased to see some young people in the audience who don't work for Cara. 10 years ago, the Cara University Network had 74 members. Today, it's 135. Again, not an exponential increase, but pretty big, almost double. And the Cara Fellowship Scheme, at that time, 10 years ago, was supporting 24 Cara Fellows on placement. Today's programme is working with over 200 Cara Fellows. I don't know if Robin will say we're starting to get to close to exponential, and maybe we are. And just to follow up what Stephen said, Cara's Syria programme launched in 2016, currently working with over 200 active participants. And he mentioned that army of individual UK academics that work on that Syria programme, and it really is an army that numbers hundreds. And it's a fantastic support that individuals in the UK Higher Education Network have given us, as well as institutions. Don't forget, there are individuals as well that do that. So, Cara busier now since any time in the 1930s, but Robin showed some fantastic numbers there. So I don't know if maybe we have to go back and work out really if we are busier than we were back in the 1930s. But we can't stand still. And it's useful to think in 10-year blocks, as I just have. So what about the next 10 years, our 100th anniversary in 2033? Some of you will be here, I hope. And there are really three strands or themes to that. The first is the fellowship programme that sits at our core. And our plan is to build on the experience of that programme, increase still further the numbers of threatened academics we can help to get to safety. Cara's launched in 1933 by many of the leading academics and scientists in the UK. And it is the child of UK higher education. And we would say to UK universities, don't regard Cara as a charity that you support, regard it as your charity. And that's really what Cara is. The higher education sector faces many challenges, many financial challenges at the moment. And we've really seen, in spite of this, how universities have been able to mobilise and find resources that have made it possible for us to help to rescue so many of their colleagues. And the university sector's rapid response to the crisis in Afghanistan, and also to our emergency call for help after the Syria-Turkey earthquake, was extremely impressive indeed. It's a very good example of the fact that universities can get together and can mobilise quite quickly. And we look forward to continuing that work with the university sector to pursue its mission even more intensively. Secondly, our second major strand, regional programmes, and Stephen mentioned Iraq and Zimbabwe, now in the past, but Syria very much in the present. And to ensure that we can just deliver support not just to the UK, but in other parts of the world. And what we're engaged in starting to do now is to produce what we call a toolkit. That's to draw on those experiences from our regional programmes, particularly in Syria, to try and get ourselves into a situation, because Cara responds to crises. We don't know where they're going to come from. We don't know often what the nature of them will be. But when we respond to them, we often respond with a blank sheet of paper. We want to try and get into a situation where our experience in working in other parts of the world will give us some sort of start, some sort of template to work with. We call it a toolkit, and that's what we're determined to try and get together. So we look forward to working together with our university partners to pursue that mission, regional programmes, and helping people in the UK. And the third thing, which is sort of new, which again Stephen's talked about, is working with government. And that's the Researchers in Risk programme focused on Ukraine. And we are in the process of trying to further develop that, to get some sort of framework together so that we can help in situations at fairly short notice. And Cara, together with the National Academies, British Academy and the Royal Society, responded. And they responded quickly and ably when resources were made available. And that was the key. That potential is there if we can have resources. And we're hopefully going to try and get that point across to government. So more of the same, and some new stuff to get onto a more solid footing. Back to Robin talking about the UK's reputation over many years in Europe for working so well and leading in this work. And we want to carry on with that. And one final quote that comes from our founding statement: individuals with exceptional abilities, exceptionally trained, and their preservation and their protection for the good of society at large. So thank you for all your interest. Please think of Cara as your organisation. Without your help and support, we could do, of course, nothing. And with that help, we will do much more again in the next 10 years. It really is very simple. The more money we have, the more people we can help. And it's right that that final appeal for support should not come from me or from Stephen or from Cara. And I hand over to Jonathan, because after he's finished with you, you're going to get some very well-earned refreshment, I hope. Thank you.
Alan, thank you. And just before I hand over to John, I did want to draw your attention to these little booklets which are lying around in the room where we're going to have the reception. You've seen the Fellowship Programme video. This is a little booklet of stories of the Syria programme. I think 19 or 20 people, both Syrians and some of the UK people you mentioned who are involved with them, just describing what they do. It's hot off the press, I think, this morning or last night, but very, very new. And once again, it's premiered here, so please pick up a copy. It fits neatly into pockets, handbags, whatever. Take it home with you. We've got 150 of them. Please don't leave them behind. And with that, I will pass on to John for the final words.
Good. Well, thank you very much. As Alan says, I'm all that stands between you and your refreshments, so I shall try to keep this brief. But what I shall say is important. I think what we've heard tonight is a remarkable story. The history of Cara is exceptional, and the work it's done is something that we can all, as a community, be very proud of. And our congratulations to the organisation for all that it's done over the last 90 years. Robin set out beautifully the history and the impact of that work. I can say no more than we're very proud as a society to have been part of that story. A small part, cheering from the sidelines, but hopefully helping wherever we've been able to. But what really, I think, was remarkable this evening was the stories that we've heard, the testimonies from the current people supported by Cara. These were, I found personally, very moving and really remarkable. These are stories that exemplify all that we as an academic community should be seeking to achieve, supporting each other, encouraging each other, ensuring and advocating for academic freedom wherever possible. These individuals who we heard from, their stories are memorable, and they're a great credit to Cara. Thank you very much indeed for what you said. But as Alan and Robin have made clear, Cara's work is far from over. Its work at the moment is, the calls on its energies and its resources are greater now than they have been for a very long time. And I fear they're going to be great for a very long time to come. The Royal Society is tremendously, tremendously committed to supporting Cara, as it has done for 90 years. We hope to do and intend to do going forward. And I know our sister academies, national academies, feel exactly the same. I hope that you will feel the same too. This is a great success story. We're changing lives at the moment through the work we do as an academic community, and we will, I hope, I regret to have to say, need to do that in the future. So I join Alan in asking you to support Cara and asking you to advocate within your organisations and your institutions for Cara in the future. Thank you all very much. Please join me in thanking all our speakers, and then please go and continue the discussion over refreshments.